Women's Day, guys, and in today's video I'm going to recommend you some awesome books to read this Women's Day. Most of these books are written by women and all of them are about awesome women. So I hope that you enjoy it. It does not really matter whether you're a woman or a man. These stories have something to take away and I hope that you like them as much as I did. And also let me mention that today's video is sponsored by Storytel. So all the books in today's video are available on Storytel and you can get them for free with a 30-day free trial if you use my code storytel.com/Helly to go on their website. Make the most of your 30-day free trial, after which it costs only $2.99 per month and you can obviously cancel anytime. Now without any further delay, let's get into this video. First book that I'm going to recommend is the t-shirt that I'm wearing. Let me show you guys. We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Okay, let me... So, We Should All Be Feminists is an amazing non-fiction by Adichie. Adichie is one of my favorite writers of all time and she defines feminism in an awesome manner. If you want, you can actually check out the TED Talk by her on the same topic. It's sort of similar. Now, if you go and check the TED Talk out, you will understand why feminism is so important today. I don't want to give you any spoiler actually because a lot of people do have a lot of wrong ideas about feminism, which is really sad, because if you don't know about something, please don't comment on it. So I feel very annoyed when people say bad things about feminism and they have not even read a book on feminism and not even listened to any woman like Adichie speak about this. And I really feel that if you read We Should All Be Feminists, you will understand why we should all be feminists. Women have always been oppressed, and although we have come a long way, there's still a long way to go, and reading books like these make us think differently and make us take one step further emotionally and mentally to prepare for a better future where both the genders will be equal. The second book that I want to recommend to you if you want to read some awesome women-centric books is Coraline, and this is a very easy book. So if you don't understand, I'm actually going from the easy books towards the difficult ones. So Coraline is a book by Neil Gaiman about a girl called Coraline who discovers this very weird world where she has another pair of parents. But something is really wrong. Why I want you to read Coraline is that the way Coraline faces difficulties, that's how you should be preparing yourself. Obviously, it's a children's book. It does not really appear so, inspiring in the first place. But when you read it and look into the depth of it, you realize that if you are determined, you can face any obstacle, even if it's probably the worst obstacle ever and it's actually a very bad, and spoilers here, a very bad witch. The next recommendation will be Margaret Atwood books, and probably the most famous book by her is Handmaid's Tale. If you want, you can actually check out the Crash Course by John Green. I really liked it, but please read the book. Now, Handmaid's Tale is about this dystopian world where women are reduced to handmaids if they are fertile, and they have to give birth to children of rich people, men. Handmaids in this world are named after the men who they work for. So there's this woman called Offred who is the central character of this novel. Offred means she's off Fred, and honestly, when you read the book, you don't even realize that we actually are not quite far away from it. It was actually a time where women were tools of men. They had no voting rights, they had no right over their property, they didn't even have any right over their own body, and that's something we are still struggling with today, although the situation is not as bad probably as it was. But come on, comparing the worst with worst is not something we should do. We should always aspire for something better in the future. And Handmaid's Tale has actually made so many people cry, including me. While I think every woman must read this book, I also feel like every man should also read it. The next book that I will recommend to you guys is The Haunting of the Hill House and We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I recommend this book because it delves deeply into the woman's psychology and it also explores mental illness in a way no one else probably ever has. Shirley Jackson has this, style of writing which you don't really get in the first place. When you're reading it for the first time, it probably appears very haunted, but if you think a little deep, you understand that it's mental illness that she's talking about. And there are so many authors who talk about mental illness in their books, especially for women, which brings me to my next recommendation, which is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Gillian Perkins. And it is such a great book. Well, when I read it for the first time, I honestly did not understand it completely, after which I went to the crash course by John Green. Okay, John Green is actually a lifesaver, and I understood what was going on. And if you just want to save you time, let me tell you, there's a very, very bad thing that happens in this book towards the end, where a woman actually goes completely crazy. And that scene, it's a very scary scene. After reading that book, actually it's a short story, a lot of people actually understood what type of mental issues a woman may go through, and they stopped restricting women as they were being restricted. So at that period of time when women were depressed or were going through mental illness, they were actually confined and were not allowed to do any activities, which actually increased the depression even more. And that was actually what was initially prescribed for those women, to be secluded and isolated and not to do any activity. And there's this woman who can't do anything like that because her husband is a doctor and he does not let her be healthy emotionally. It always reminds me how men emotionally control women so many times. I have seen so many relationships where women have been abused emotionally, if not physically, and I think it's equally bad. And Yellow Wallpaper is one amazing book that highlights that very well. The next book that I'll recommend is Matilda by Roald Dahl. This is a book that I read when I was a young girl and I loved it so much. When I read it for the first time, I was shook at Matilda's brilliance and I thought, oh my god, can I ever be so brilliant? But the next time I read it, after like 5 or 6 years, I realized that the way Matilda goes beyond the force of her parents don't want her to study. This is typically an attitude a lot of families have. Now, I am a privileged person and hopefully you are as well if you're watching my videos. But the thing is, there are so many women out there in the world from sections of the society where education for women is still not the norm. And it reminds me how women are still fighting against it. And for me, Matilda is not a white girl in a book. She is every girl in every society that is against women's education and their freedom. Next book that I'll recommend is In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. Yeonmi Park is the girl who escaped North Korea with her mother when she was 13 years old, and she became really famous on the internet a couple of years back. I saw her speeches and I was moved to tears. Everybody was moved to tears. North Korea is definitely not the best place for anybody, let alone women. And the way she describes everything in her memoir is worth a read. Also, there are a lot of people who doubt her, and I have no idea why they do, because oh my god, when a woman says anything, why do you always have to doubt her? You don't say that I doubt this man when they are writing their memoir. There's this man who has also written this memoir about escaping North Korea. I have never heard anybody say a word against him, but I have heard so many things against Yeonmi, and that once again shows the male privilege that we are always encountering. Next book that I'll recommend is an awesome book that all women must read, but don't take inspiration from it, and that is The Girl on the Train. This is a psychological thriller and I really loved it. Compared to Gone Girl, I did not like it as much, honestly, but it's still a good read. I wish that I had read it before Gone Girl, because whenever I read this book, I compare it with Gone Girl and I don't like it. But The Girl on the Train is a brilliant book in its own. It's about a girl who notices a couple every day while she's on the train and she thinks their life is perfect. But is it? Why does she always spy on that couple? That is really, really crazy. Is there some history concerned with it? And if yes, what? There's also a very, very crazy scene in the bathtub in this book which left me very shook, and honestly it did make me question the societal ideas of motherhood and womanhood at the same time. And even though that scene is not something that I liked or approved, I really felt that it challenged my views, and when I see such things in a book, I like it. The next two books are comparatively very difficult to read, and they are A Vindication for the Rights of the Woman by Mary Wollstonecraft. It was the first feminist book ever written, as far as I know, and in English obviously, and it is an amazing book. Now, since it was the first feminist book, it did not have radical ideas about feminism as maybe Kate Millett's Sexual Politics, but it still has some amazing ideas, and I feel like every person, every feminist especially, must be reading this book, because you know, if you have not read the core things about feminism, I don't think you have earned the right to call yourself a feminist. And Mary Wollstonecraft very subtly puts forth her ideas about feminism, about why women should get education and equal rights. And I really love how she does that without becoming very radical, because if she had, she would probably have been punished, because remember, it's the 17th or I think the 18th century. Next book that I'll recommend is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf in this book gave an amazing idea, which I think you should know even if you don't read the complete book. It's that if Shakespeare had a sister with the same talents and same skills, would she have been as successful as Shakespeare? Probably not, because she was a woman. She would not have been permitted to go to a school. She would probably not have been permitted to write, and even if she had done those two, she'll probably not get published, and even if she got published, people will be biased towards a woman writer. If you did not know, the first book, the first novel is written by a woman, but she's never credited with that. The novel is Orunoko by Afra Ben, and the first novel, which is actually technically credited all the time, is a book by Daniel Defoe, which I think is really effed up, because you know, Orunoko is definitely the first English novel. But let's come to that debate later. I hope that you enjoyed these recommendations. Two more books that I really want to read and want you guys to read is Educated by Tara Westover. I have not read this book, but I have only heard great things about it, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna like it. Another book is Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies, which is an amazing title. I'm pretty sure this book contains some really good things. I have already watched the review of this book by Meera Nair. She's an amazing booktuber. Check her video review out. I'll link it in the description below. And yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed today's recommendations. All these books, as I said, are available on Storytel. The link is in the description below. The link to all the books are in the description below. So make sure you're grabbing them, and let me know if you like to read these books, because I would love to know. Use the hashtag Harry's Book Club when you're reading and want me to see your updates. Also, if you want to engage with a community to read feminist texts, there is an amazing bookstagrammer called The Liquid Sunset, and her actual name is Auritri. She has created hashtag FemMarchFest, which is an amazing event where women and men as well. So she has created hashtag FemMarchFest, which is an event where we all read feminist reads through the month of March, and you can follow the hashtag to see what others are reading and engage within the community. So yeah, I hope that you will be engaging with her community. Marchfest, go over. So if you want to engage with the community of Fem March Fest, go over to the Liquid Sunsets profile and you will get to know how to do that. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and you took away something valuable. If you did, make sure you comment below and let me know. I hope that you will recommend me some awesome books as well to read, because I love reading books about women and by women. So leave them in the comment section below. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel because I post new videos every week. Until my next video, bye bye.